Harry McDougald out of Georgia. Tim, do you know who Harry McDougald is? Let me tell you. When Dan Rather did a fraudulent story about George W. Bush in the lead up to the 2004 reelection campaign, George W. Bush, saying that he tried to get out of military service, and lo and behold, here's the letter proving it. CBS News made the mistake of putting the letter on their website. Timmy, it was Harry McDougald in Georgia who went on freerepublic.com and said, now, wait a minute, this letter's a forgery because that font is from Microsoft Word, which didn't exist back in the early 70s. Timmy, the guy that got Dan Rather fired from CBS News is one of the 3 attorneys representing Colonel Conrad Reynolds. Timmy. Letitia James. Mango. Timmy, this isn't going to turn out well for y'all. I mean, I've said it before. I said it the other day. A lot of times, although a state Supreme Court and although the U.S. Supreme Court both get way too many appeals cases to deal with all of them, and they have to really narrow them down, when they've got a chance of doing a first impression, something they've never handled before, that kind of gets their attention. Supreme Court justices like to make their mark. Oh, wait a minute. We've never seen a case like this in the whole history of our Supreme Court. Yeah, we'll take this one. Regardless of whether they wind up ruling in favor of the prosecution or the defense, they like first impressions. And Tim, this is all about exit polling, as you know. And no one in the state of Arkansas has ever been indicted for doing exit polling, which, as you know, was what Colonel Reynolds and Mr. Black were doing. And they're being persecuted by your regime for conducting First Amendment protected free speech. Okay, do we have one more? Okay, we have one more soundbite from Tim Mango Griffin, Attorney General, such as it is, of the great natural state. Here's cut 5.
I'm not new to your show. I'm not new to Arkansans. I have served for a long time, and people have gotten to know me, and I've always been fair, and I'm the same guy. And that's all I can say.
Always been fair. What, up until now? Again, there are a number of classic logical fallacies that people use out there. And this kind of seems, young Steve, you can correct me if I got it wrong, but it kind of seems to be a mixture of 2 of them at least. There's the appeal to pity. In other words, please don't hate me. I know it looks bad, but please don't hate me. And then perhaps the appeal to authority. Look, man, I'm your Attorney General. I mean, I get this right. I treat everybody fairly. You know you can trust me. What's the kerfuffle here? I mean, I just told you it has nothing to do with electioneering. Has nothing to do with exit polling. And yet, Tim, you know it does. Your own press release from your own office with your own letterhead, I need to get one of those one of these days, obviously says it does. Affidavit obviously says it does. So again, who are you going to believe? Me or your lying eyes? 501-401-1011 if you want to sound off and talk back. The Demgas has a story about by Felicia Branch, professor at Bowen School of Law, Euler, finally, after a month of paid vacation, being fired for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's coming up as the Doc Washburn Show continues. 101.1 The Answer. Hey, when your AC breaks down in the Arkansas heat, or pretty soon I guess we could say when your heat breaks down in the Arkansas cold, who are you going to call? I call my buddy Brian Knight, owner of Knight's Service Company. They've been guarding your comfort all over Central Arkansas for over 25 years. I trust them. They're a family-owned HVAC business. They built their reputation on Christian principles, honest service, and putting customers first, whether it's air conditioning, heating, or refrigeration. If it heats or cools in your home or your business, they fix it, or they can install a new unit, residential or commercial. Just ask Knight Service Company about their long list of commercial customers who trust them with their business. All makes and models. They're fast, they're affordable, and they give you honest solutions. Knight's Service Company has been guarding your comfort for over 25 years. Visit the website, knightsservicecompany.com. That's KNIGHTS, servicecompany.com. One oh 1.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. My first public appearance since returning to Little Rock Radio will be Saturday, November 8th at 2 p.m., Salem Media's annual Faith and Liberty Summit at the Four Points Sheraton in Little Rock. Don't miss it. All right, the Demgas. The Demgas has an article by Dmitry Motorosov. Dmitry, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your last name incorrectly. University of Arkansas at Little Rock fires law school professor over Charlie Kirk comments. And it says, University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Will you forgive me if I just call it Euler? I know we're not supposed to these days, but we all do. Euler has fired Felicia Branch, Bowen School of Law assistant professor, for her comments about the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, according to two university letters reviewed by the Demgas. Branch was officially dismissed Monday. We're just now finding out about it, following an unsuccessful appeal to reverse the decision. In two separate letters, top university officials said the comments which Branch made on her Facebook page one day after Kirk was assassinated while speaking on a college campus in Utah violated university policy, caused a significant disruption to normal university operations, and made students feel uncomfortable and, quote, under attack, unquote. Well, doggone. I mean, they're right. Have I ever agreed with any official decision by the Bowen School of Law at Euler? I don't know. I can't remember one. knock me over with a leaf. No, buddy, I tell you something. When they get it right, even if you disagree with everything they ever said up until then, when they get it right, we need to give them credit. So, Colin Crawford, dean of the Bowen School of Law, said in a 3-page letter addressed to Branch on September 24th, the disruption to the efficient operation of the Bowen School of Law and UA Little Rock caused by your unprofessional conduct is cause for dismissal. Doggone! He got it right. Branch was suspended with pay and placed under investigation September 16th after posting on Facebook that she will not refrain from, quote, celebrating that an evil man died by the method he chose to embrace, unquote, and that Kirk, quote, died how he lived with violence, unquote. You know, I got to tell you, I hope that Charlie's widow sues by Felicia Branch for everything she has, for lying, for slandering the good name of her deceased husband. In other posts, Felicia Branch equated people mourning Charlie Kirk's death to members of the Ku Klux Klan and said his death makes the world, quote, a little more balanced, unquote. Oh, my goodness. They need to sue her. Crawford said in his letter, Branch confirmed that she wrote and posted the since deleted comments. See, I didn't know they were deleted because she blocked me. Because obviously Felicia is afraid of somebody out here telling the truth in the media. Crawford said after Branch posted the comments, administrators at Euler and the University of Arkansas system received, quote, a torrent of complaints, unquote, about the posts from students, parents, and alumni, as well as from high-ranking officials, including Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General Tim Griffin, and other government officials. Sanders, Rutledge, and Griffin have all criticized Branch for her comments. Crawford told Branch in his letter, quote, these complaints have caused serious disruption to the efficient operation of the instructional and work environment at the Bowen School of Law, and there's every reason to believe that further disruptions will occur so long as you remain on the faculty, unquote. Wow! Crawford said the complaints, quote, called into question the effectiveness and viability of the low-income taxpayer clinic, unquote, which Branch directed up until her suspension. He also cited a student organization that said it felt, quote, under attack, unquote, from her posts. Crawford said, quoting again now, parents and alumni have expressed dismay at the posts and have made clear that they no longer consider the Bowen School of Law a place where future members of the legal profession can effectively be trained, unquote. Buddy! I mean, my hat's off to these folks. I got to tell you. Not even going to lie, fam. When somebody hits a home run, you need to at least fess up and admit somebody hit a home run. Crawford cited university policy saying the faculty must not engage in, quote, a pattern of conduct that is detrimental to the productive and efficient operation of the instructional or work environment, unquote. He said faculty at Euler is expected to, quote, adhere to the ethical standards of the university and their respective disciplines, as well as manifest standards of civility, professionalism, and collegiality, unquote. Now, I don't know if Felicia knows what all those words mean. She might have to look some of them up. Crawford said he was disappointed with Branch following a meeting on September 24th, where he said Branch repeatedly returned to her personal views of Charlie Kirk. So, I can understand he's disappointed. What was the vetting process like to even give her a job in the first place? It sounded like she's got a pretty low IQ. It sounded like she had no idea what was going on when she met with the administration of Bowen School of Law if she repeatedly returned to her personal views of Charlie Kirk. Branch appealed Crawford's decision to dismiss her under university policy, and on October 9th, a panel of the Euler Faculty Appeals Council decided against terminating her. Oh, really? I'd love to know who's on that panel. The panel chair told Euler Chancellor Christina Drayle that a majority of the panelists saw Branch's posts as a mistake, but ultimately believed that a warning would have been enough, according to a letter Drayle sent to Branch on Monday. Please, y'all, please tell me who's on the panel. I'm asking politely. Drayle decided against the recommendation of the panel and upheld Crawford's decision to terminate Branch. In her letter, Drayle said Branch's argument to Crawford was twofold: that her comments were made as a private citizen and not an employee of a public institution, and that the attention to her posts were not inherent to their content, but rather a result of third-party instigators. Drayle rejected the argument. As well she should. Drayle told Branch, and I quote, "The effect of one's speech is not logically confined to one channel of feedback. In this case, the feedback was overwhelmingly negative. Your social media posts were in fact disruptive to the operation and effectiveness of the low-income taxpayer clinic, the Bowen School of Law, and UA Little Rock. Given your insistence that your messages were wholly unproblematic, I don't believe that a warning or reprimand would convince you otherwise or prevent further occurrences," unquote. Drayle told Branch she doesn't see a pathway where she continues to teach at the Bowen School of Law, quote, "without compromising the trust of your students and colleagues," unquote. Oh, here's the kicker. Oh, my goodness. The last sentence in this article from Dmitry Martirosov, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, about the firing by Felicia Branch, Bowen School of Law, Euler. The last sentence, young Steve, I hope you're sitting down. I don't mean to shock you or anything, but Branch did not respond to a request for comment. Ho! What's she going to say? Baby, I didn't say anything wrong. They shouldn't have fired me. Something along those lines. That's the impression we're laboring under, and I don't need to tell you, if you've ever labored under an impression of the kind of pain I'm experiencing. Now, our good friend Robert Steinbuck had something to say about it. He did an op-ed in the Demcast this morning, and we'll share that with you at the top of the hour news as the Doc Washer Show continues on 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. My first public appearance since returning to Little Rock Radio after all these years will be Saturday, November 8th at 2 p.m. at Salem Media's annual Faith and Liberty Summit at the Four Points Sheraton in Little Rock. And you are warmly invited to join us. Don't miss it, because I got some stuff I need to say. All right, let's take a look at Professor Robert Steinbuch's op-ed in the Demgaz. It's called Notice of Dismissal. And he's always good. He says, I told you that I'd keep you informed regarding the scandalous social media postings of Felicia Branch, the recently hired and more recently suspended professor at my school, the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, William H. Bowen School of Law. The matter reached a conclusion Monday. The school dismissed Branch. Recall that after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Branch wrote, quote, "When a good person dies, a despicable person should also die," unquote. She characterized Kirk's mourners as Ku Klux Klan members, which is really weird because I don't know too many Democrats that are mourning for Charlie. You know, the Democrat Party being the party of the KKK, but anyway, I digress. Back to Professor Steinbuch's op-ed. He said, I uncovered a disturbing pattern of racist declarations by Branch in her online history. See, this hasn't come out in the media. In response to a New York Times article about summary deportations, Felicia Branch posted that, quote, somebody needs to go to jail. But my prediction is that it's not going to happen without the threat of or actual violence, unquote. Now, producer Young Steve, when you have somebody working at a school of law calling for actual violence and using the words actual violence, that's concerning. See, Professor Steinbuch actually did some research here. Euler went ahead and fired her for celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, but Professor Steinbuch said, oh, but wait, there's more. But I digress. At the end of September, Colin Crawford, dean of the law school, wrote Branch, quote, your posts celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk, equated people mourning his death to members of the Ku Klux Klan burning crosses, stated that you hoped Mr. Kirk was restless in hell. See, the article in the Demgaz didn't mention this, and used a vulgar acronym to imply that Mr. Kirk had effed around and found out by being shot, a crime that, according to you, made the world a little more balanced. Administrators at UA Little Rock and the UA System Office received a torrent of complaints concerning your social media posts. These complaints have caused serious disruption to the efficient operation of the instructional and work environment of the Bowen School of Law, and there is every reason to believe that further disruptions will occur so long as you remain in the faculty. The disruption to the efficient operation of the Bowen School of Law and UA Little Rock caused by your unprofessional conduct is cause for dismissal. While I appreciate that you indicated that you believe you can be impartial, hey, she probably thought her comments were impartial. Despite your personal views of a person or a situation, your presentation and discussion today did not in any way address these concerns of professional conduct as a lawyer and law professor. In our meeting, you repeatedly returned to your personal views of Charlie Kirk. However, free expression must be balanced against standards of appropriate professional behavior. As you acknowledged, you were present at the 1L orientation this year, where I advised entering students to take great care always to maintain high standards of professional conduct. I included in an admonition to take special care with social media, stressing that As lawyers, we are understood to represent not merely ourselves, but also the highest values of the law and our legal system. And as faculty members, we do not merely share knowledge, but also become role models for appropriate behavior. Regrettably, your recent posts do not, in my view, reflect that understanding. In short, while the university values academic freedom, this principle is not unbounded. Your conduct was contrary to the professional expectations expected by the Board of Trustees and university administration, unquote. I'm so glad we have Professor Steinbuch to put things into context and to include statements made by the administration of the Bowen School of Law at Euler that are left out of the mainstream media coverage of the issue. See, it's a lot worse. See, earlier in the show, if you're just tuning in, earlier in the show, I read the Demgaz's article, and they definitely softened the issue by leaving out some of the more outrageous statements that Felicia Branch had made. So thank God that Professor Robert Steinbuch is including these things. It's a lot worse than what we've been told. But I digress. Professor Steinbuch says this week, the Chancellor of UA Little Rock, Christina Drayle, sustained the dean's decisions and wrote to Branch, quote, on September 24th, 2025, you received the notice of dismissal for cause from your supervisor. You appealed. A panel of the UA Little Rock Faculty Appeals Council met on October 9th, 2025 to hear your appeal. I received the panel's statement on October 10th, 2025, which disagreed with the decision to terminate. Oh, my goodness, please, please, please. Tell me who's on the panel. The panel chair expressed to me that the majority of the panelists considered your social media post to be a mistake, but believed a warning would have been more appropriate. Having reviewed the record and applicable policies, I have decided for the following reasons to uphold the dean's decision to dismiss you for cause. In his notice of dismissal, Dean Crawford explains that your social media posts caused significant disruption to the efficient operation of the Bowen School of Law and that your actions constituted a serious violation of the professional standards expected by the Bowen Law School and the Board of Trustees. In your statement to Dean Crawford regarding your suspension, your argument appears to center on two arguments. Number one, you were speaking as a private citizen, not as a representative of a public institution. And number two, your post did not cause a disruption because the direct responses to your social media posts were relatively low. Your claim is that third parties caused the disruption. The effect of one's speech is not logically confined to one channel of feedback. In this case, the feedback was overwhelmingly negative. Your social media posts were, in fact, disruptive to the operation and effectiveness of the low-income taxpayer clinic, the Bowen School of Law, and UA Little Rock. Moreover, given your insistence that your messages were wholly unproblematic, I don't believe that a warning or reprimand would convince you otherwise or prevent further occurrences. In other words, you're too stupid to know what you did wrong. See, what she said there was a polite way to say, yo, Felicia, you too stupid to understand what you did is wrong, baby. What's up? What's wrong with you, if I may? In the final, I mean, she does everything but to say, yo, what you said was whack. Okay? In the final analysis, I cannot see a pathway where you could remain in your position at the Bowen Law School without compromising the trust and confidence of your students and colleagues, thereby continuing to disrupt the effective and efficient delivery of legal education at this institution. Therefore, I am upholding the decision to dismiss you for cause from your non-tenure track position. This decision is final, unquote. Again, I'm so glad Professor Steinbuch has a lot of stuff in his op-ed that is sorely missing from the mainstream media coverage of this issue, especially but not limited to the actual article in the Dem Gas. But I digress. Professor Steinbuch continues saying, I've read in the media about several cases in which government employees were fired for making unseemly comments subsequent to Kirk's murder. Branch's statements stand among the worst that I've seen. As I've repeatedly stated here, I'm a strong advocate for free speech and academic freedom. It's hard to define precisely where the limit of expressive freedom rests, but it seems to me that the conclusion of the dean and chancellor is correct. Branch's statements about Kirk's killing, racist comments, and invocation of violence, when considered together, fall on the wrong side of that line. This is your right to know. That's from Robert Steinbuch, Arkansas Bar Foundation professor at the Bowen Law School, Fulbright scholar and author of the treatise, The Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. His views do not necessarily reflect those of his employer, even though he is affirming the decision of his employer. I mean, just so you know. Yeah. I mean, Felicia is so far gone in her racism, so far gone in her antichrist attitude. Now, I don't care if she go to church. She's saying that she's hoping Charlie Kirk's in hell. Charlie Kirk, a man who shared the gospel, she hopes he's in jail. I don't care if she go to church. She has an antichrist attitude. She's so far gone in all that when she had her meeting with the administration, she kept on coming back to, well, I want to talk about Charlie Kirk. And they're like, that's not what this is about, baby. What's wrong with you? It's ridiculous. I mean, I haven't said this very often about very many people. I go years without saying this. But one could be forgiven for coming to the conclusion that by Felicia Branch is actually impervious to external stimuli. I mean, no, I'll repeat it for the folks sitting in the back. Maybe I wasn't loud enough. One could be forgiven for coming to the conclusion that by Felicia Branch is actually impervious to external stimuli. I don't think she had, to this day, I don't think she has any idea what she did wrong and what they're talking about. I mean, some people are so firmly in their bubble, in their silo, in their hermetically sealed enclosure that you can't get to them. I mean, the only thing that they left out in their letter of dismissal to Felicia Branch, the only thing they left out, and I'm not criticizing them. I mean, what they said was certainly enough. But the only thing they left out, and perhaps, I mean, Daddy always said discretion is the better part of valor. Maybe I'll learn that lesson someday. The only thing they left out was to say, yo, Felicia, we can explain it to you till we're blue in the face, but clearly we can't understand it for you. Bye, Felicia. 501-401-1011 if you want to sound off and talk back. The Doc Washer Show continues on 101.1 The Answer. I want to tell you about the best-kept secret in American healthcare. This is a secret that Charlie Kirk himself discovered about 6 years ago. And he was so excited, he pulled out his phone and did an impromptu endorsement video with his doctor up in Chicago, who does the same thing that my doctor, Dr. Crabtree, does here in Central Arkansas. Let me tell you about it. If you struggle with sinuses, allergies, dizziness, vertigo, blood sugar issues, fibromyalgia, eczema, psoriasis, migraines. I mean, whatever you got going on, the Arkansas Upper Cervical Center might be able to help you. Let me tell you how this works. Your skull weighs anywhere from 8 to 15 pounds. Rests on the C1 or atlas, top bone of your spinal column, which weighs only 2 ounces. So it's really easy for your atlas to get out of alignment, and if it does, that imbalance can cause your whole spinal column to get kinked up like a chain. And remember, the top bone of your spinal column, that's right where your brainstem is. You don't want that out of alignment. If your spinal column can get kinked up like a chain, well, then that keeps your central nervous system from being able to communicate with the rest of your body properly as God designed it to do. Now, I suffered from severe hay fever about 5 or 6 weeks every spring all my life, had migraines all my life. After I had my atlas adjusted, the hay fever and the migraines disappeared for good. Whatever you suffer from, do yourself a favor. Call my friends at the Arkansas Upper Cervical Center for a free consultation. The website is turnmypoweron.com. They have helped so many people that I know. Maybe they can help you. Go to the website, turnmypoweron.com. .1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. So let me just say something to you. We need to do an update. John Solomon over at justthenews.com says, an update on the breaking news we had yesterday about this time. A grand jury delivered an 18-count indictment on Thursday against former National Security Advisor and Trump critic John Bolton, who has been accused of unlawfully handling classified documents. The grand jury indictment charged Bolton with 18 felonies, including 10 counts of illegal retention of national defense information. He was also charged with 8 counts of transmitting national defense information. Attorney General Pam Bondi said there's one tier of justice for all Americans. Anyone who abuses a position of power and jeopardizes our national security will be held accountable. No one's above the law. The federal grand jury convened Wednesday to consider charges against the longtime national security figure 2 months after the FBI raided his Maryland home and found highly sensitive national security information. They convened Wednesday, and the next day they hand down an indictment on 18 felonies. Didn't take long. You know what I'm saying, Holmes? I say it didn't take long. I mean, that would be kind of like when you got a murder trial and prosecution rests and the defense rests and the case goes to the jury and the jury comes back in like just a few minutes. Yeah, he's guilty. Or, no, he's not guilty. Either way, it didn't take long. The next day, sometimes grand juries meet for months. They've been known to meet for over a year. Because, you know, they want to get it right. But, I mean, the next day, DOJ ready to go, man. Ready to go. Didn't take long. All right, let me give you an update. FBI Director Kash Patel has a headline for Fox News. DOJ brings first Antifa-related terrorism charges in Texas ICE attack. Kash Patel says, first time ever. The FBI arrested Antifa-aligned anarchist, violent extremists, and terrorism charges have been brought for the July 4th Prairieland ICE attack in Texas. Under President Trump's authorities, we've made over 20 arrests. No one gets to harm law enforcement, not on my watch. For real, man. Dan Bongino does a quote tweet on it. It says, we can and will track you down. It's only a matter of time. I say only a matter of time, y'all. Andy Neo responds, one of them is Trantifa. He's got a picture of two of these people arrested. He says, two members of a North Texas Antifa cell have been federally indicted with federal terrorism charges over an ambush shooting on an ICE facility where an officer was shot in the neck. Cameron Arnold, otherwise known as Autumn Hill, of Trantifa, and Zachary Everett were indicted with providing material support for terrorism, attempting to murder federal and assisting officers, and discharging firearms during attempted murders. This is the first known time that Antifa members have been charged with providing material support for terrorism. So if you run into any of those No Kings folk over the weekend, you can tell them, well, I guess Antifa is an organization after all because they charging them with like federal felonies and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I guess maybe Antifa is not just an idea. It's not just a theme. Look like it's actually an international terrorist organization. Robert Steinbuck coming up with the Doc Washer Show right after this. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. My first public appearance since returning to Little Rock Radio will be Saturday, November 8th at 2 p.m. at Salem Media's annual Faith and Liberty Summit at the Four Points Sheraton in Little Rock. So don't miss it, because I'm going to have a lot of things to say. Now, I was at the arraignment of Colonel Conrad Reynolds Wednesday morning. Got up really early to go to Batesville, the Independence County Courthouse. And it was amazing to me that they did a criminal indictment on loitering for the colonel. Just unbelievable. What's also amazing to me was that Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin was on with Dave Ellswick this morning and said, oh, no, you got it all wrong. This has nothing to do with electioneering or whether exit polling is legit. I'm like, well, Tim, haven't you read your own press release with your name on it? Oh, just look at the affidavits. I did, Tim. What are you even talking about right now? So anyway, the only conservative law professor from Bowen School of Law, University of Arkansas, Little Rock. I'm sorry, what? Oh, he's not here yet. He said, give him a couple of minutes. Well, it's a lonely feeling. Yes, it's a lonely feeling when we're ready to talk about something, but our guest is not here yet. Well, in that case, if Professor Steinbuch isn't ready yet, maybe get Tim Griffin himself. We'll get straight from the horse's mouth and ask Timmy why he's lying to us. Well, maybe he's not lying. Perhaps his office puts out press releases with his name on them, and he doesn't see them, and he's being misserved by his staff. Perhaps Tim Griffin, a lot of people are calling him James, is not actually intentionally prevaricating to us, but his staff just isn't serving him well. Well, young Steve, either way, isn't it a bad look? Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Our next guest goes under the category of worth the wait. We have Professor Robert Steinbuch, the only conservative law professor at the Bowen School of Law at University of Arkansas, Little Rock, whose views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of the administration, the Board of Regents, or whoever else you want to throw in there, but they should. Yo, what up, dog? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, trying to figure out this technology as I speak to you.
Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what. When you get to be my age, Sonny, I'm technologically challenged. Oh, okay. Well, young Steve, the producer filling in today, just told me you're on video link.
That's right.
No, I can't see any video. I can't see you, can't see me. Oh, don't worry. Young Steve can see both of us. So
I'm doing video because I've got a face for radio, so it just made sense.
I was going to say, so young Steve should be getting paid combat pay because he's got to look at both these faces for radio. So Professor Steinbuch, before we get to talking about Felicia, the situation with Colonel Conrad Reynolds and Tim Griffin saying, oh, no, this case doesn't have anything to do with the electioneering or whether exit polling is legit. No, this is 99% of what people have complained to him about is not true. And just read the affidavit. I'm like, well, okay, I'd already read the press release, which clearly said it was about electioneering. So, okay, the affidavit was attached. So I read that. I'm like, man, it sure looks like it's about electioneering. Professor Steinbuch, with your great wisdom of your many years, can you help us out here?
Well, I hope so. Tell me what the affidavit says, because my understanding is I saw his what is it, Facebook post that he said that Colonel Conrad Reynolds was engaged in exit polling. And he, the AG, aptly cites to a statute that says you can't be within 100 feet of the entrance to a polling location. And so, to be clear, he's right. There's a statute that prohibits.
Whoa. Hold on, Hoss. Wait a minute.
So
but
far.
is the statute constitutional? Because the Supreme Court has said that exit polling is First Amendment covered free speech, which has nothing to do with electioneering.
You know, I'm setting up this big reveal, Doc, and you're taking away all my grandeur.
Well, look, it's like I've told you before.
Right.
Mom always said, Doc, you're not the sharpest knife in the firmament or the brightest bulb in the drawer.
Exactly.
So I apologize profusely.
I'm teasing you. Of course.
Ah!
But this is the question, and I'm not here to make this decision. I mean this sincerely. There's a statute that says you can't be within 100 feet of the door. There's the Constitution that says we have First Amendment rights. And there's a case out of Ohio that says exit polling is a First Amendment protected right. And that's based on a Supreme Court case, by the way. But that case in Ohio dealt with a situation very similar to this one. They didn't have a statute. They had some sort of policy by like an election commission or something like that in the state of Ohio. And the person was within 100 feet doing an exit poll. And the state tried to sanction this individual. And the court said, no, it doesn't matter what that policy is. That's if you have that policy, you're violating the Constitution. Now, I can't tell you that a court here in Arkansas, a federal court, will come to the same conclusion, or even a state court, no less, because they're not bound by that opinion. But I read that opinion. It's a very persuasive opinion. So here, that's my question. It seems to me there is a real issue as to whether this law is constitutional. And I will remind you, Doc, something that you may remember. Several years ago, both I and my colleague, Chris Corbett, who's representing Conrad, ran for office. During that time, we discovered a law that said you can't put a sign on your car that's more than, I think, a foot by a foot or something like that, and be on the Capitol grounds. And and that was a law. And we said, well, that's unconstitutional. So we sued on that law. Before we even got to a trial on that, the legislature changed that law. Why? Because they recognized it was unconstitutional. So just because you have a law doesn't mean it's constitutional. And that's the question here. And I think there's some strong evidence, but I'm not here to declare it as such. But I think there's some strong indication that the statute that is being used to prosecute Colonel Conrad Reynolds is unconstitutional, at least as it's being applied here today.
So let me ask you this. And by the way, we're speaking with law professor Robert Steinbuck, Bowen School of Law at Euler. When you said look at the affidavit, I've already looked at it 2 or 3 times today. And I'm looking back at it again. And again, the affidavit for warrant of arrest for Colonel Conrad Reynolds and for the gentleman who was helping him out with the exit polling that day, Mr. Black, both of these list their home addresses and their driver's license numbers. Now, shouldn't things like that be redacted if an attorney general is going to put out, an official press release and
I don't know about home addresses, but I'm not, and I don't know if there's any obligation, but it does seem a bit odd to me to have a driver's license number listed there. So that's a little curious.
I mean, we got date of birth, we've got a home address, we've got height, weight, eye color, driver's license number, and something called system ID number, which I don't know what that is. Does that mean you got a real ID in case you want to take a plane or something? I have no idea what that means.
I don't know what that means. Maybe there's some system that we don't know about. I'm going to start some other
Oh,
conspiracy.
trust me. Trust me. There are definitely systems
Trust
that
me,
we don't know about.
there's a system.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, for real though,
Right.
aren't they breaking some kind of law
I
in
don't know. That's a good
publicly
question.
putting these guys' driver's license numbers out there?
I can tell you it's concerning, but I don't know if there's a prohibition on disclosing driver's license numbers or not. I just don't know.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
I guess we're going to need to talk to brother Chris Corbett over the weekend, because this, if I may use the term of present company, this is whack, brother. This is jacked up, and I mean a live fan. I mean,
No
they
cap, as you've taught me to say.
say what?
No cap.
No cap, bro. No, I mean, I'm reminded of the words of the great philosopher Boz Scaggs, putting your business in the street. Yeah, this is totally messed up, bro. I mean,
Well, in all seriousness, I have this significant First Amendment concern about the prosecution. And I also understand, I wasn't there, that there are different charges against Conrad Reynolds than there are against this other fellow who was with him,
yeah,
meaning that the charges against Colonel Conrad Reynolds are more narrow. And they really seem to focus on this exit polling. And I highlight that to say that's precisely the activity that has First Amendment protection. When I say that, it doesn't mean it can't be regulated at all, but it means that that's what a court has to evaluate. And that's precisely, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Colonel Reynolds has been charged with loitering, and Dustin Black has been charged with electioneering. And you got Tim Griffin out there saying this has nothing to do with electioneering, or whether exit polling is legit, and everything was handled, openly and above board, and I had nothing to do with it. And I mean, and of course, I mean, at no point does he admit the state election commission serves under the purview of our governor's handpicked, very young Secretary of State. And he's been using it as a cudgel to beat people over the head if they're trying to use paper ballots. Tim doesn't want us to think about that. That's my humble opinion, and you're entitled to it.
And I don't know anything about that one way or the other, but what I will tell you is that for the Attorney General's office to bring this case, they had to make the decision to bring this case. And in doing so, they affirmatively have to communicate with a local prosecutor to get authorization to bring a case in that locality. And they have to evaluate the law under which they're prosecuting someone to determine whether or not that law is constitutional. I'm not here to say it's not constitutional yet. I haven't done enough analysis, but I am here to say that's a question, and we need to discuss it, and we need to hear other people's views on that as well.
Okay, since you are claiming ignorance, perhaps I can refresh your memory.
Yes,
The
sir.
State Election Commission is the same state election commission that tried to suspend county elections officials in Searcy County for 14 years each for having the gall to conduct an election using paper ballots. That state election commission. So
Okay.
It's like we're supposed to believe that they are some kind of impartial arbiter, and just looking to see if anybody broke any laws or not, and if not, everything's cool. No. They're totally corrupt and compromised, again, in my humble opinion, which you remain entitled to.
Which you offer freely. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know about that aspect of it, and I'm happy to listen and receive your opinion, humbly served or otherwise. But I do know that this question as to whether this law under which Conrad Reynolds is being prosecuted, the question is that law even constitutional? And that's a real question. That is not some make-believe nonsense. And so that needs to be addressed by everybody involved. And I would gather that Chris Corbett and the other attorneys on the team for Conrad will raise that as their first issue. Is this constitutional?
Yes, Chris Corbett and the other attorney. Chris is a great attorney. The other attorney is, of course, Justice Gableman, who was a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice who did a very in-depth study on election irregularities in Wisconsin in 2020. And then, of course, we have Harry McDougald from Georgia, who is no slouch himself. He's the guy that got Dan Rather fired back in 2004 for lying, presenting a forged letter suggesting that George W. Bush tried to stay out of military service in the early 70s. So I don't think Tim and Sarah know what they're up against. Let me put it that way.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know the other two attorneys on the case, and they no doubt have strong backgrounds. But Chris is an excellent attorney, and this issue is a real issue. Is this law constitutional? If the law that was on the books and then was removed about having a placard on the side of your car was unconstitutional, then that's certainly an issue here. And the defense on this case, the government on this case, is not going to be able to pursue this case without first addressing precisely that issue with the court.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. All righty. Appreciate so much. Professor Robert Steinbuch, the only conservative law professor at William H. Bowen School of Law at Euler, and his op-eds it's every Friday morning in the Demgas, right?
That's correct, right here. If you can't see it, but I'm pointing to my Demgas shirt that I happen to be wearing. And every Friday morning, you can read my column in the Democrat Gazette online, and maybe there's some hard copies too. I don't even know.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you put in some startling revelations in there about what Felicia Branch had said that the mainstream media accounts tend to have glossed over, if I may use the term of present company.
Yes, I covered that case from its inception. As for your listeners, just to remind them, the school at which I work hired someone. They went through a normal process, and they did it fine, essentially. But it turns out that after Charlie Kirk was killed, she made some really outlandish comments, amongst others, calling Kirk mourners KKK members. And then I did a deeper dive into her social media and found litany of anti-white racist comments by her. She happens to be black. I guess you could be of any color and be anti-white, but she happens to be black. And these were just viciously anti-white statements. And that was a problem. And then most recently, she made a comment about something she didn't like that the Trump administration was doing regarding immigration. And she said, somebody needs to go to jail about this. And she said, but I don't think it's going to happen unless there's a threat of violence or violence. And so she's invoking the notion of violence as well. And so the school did the right thing. The dean did the right thing, and he met with her. The school initially suspended her, and then the dean met with her and heard her out. He terminated her. Then she was entitled to an appeal, an internal appeal. That's the process that exists at the university by professors, but not in the law school, because it's always by people not in the entity that you're in. And she got a hearing, and those professors recommended that she not be terminated. She just be somehow sanctioned otherwise.
Oh, I sure do want a list of those professors. But look, we got to run to it. Professor Steinbuch, appreciate you so much, and we look forward to having you back on soon.
Take care.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Doc Washburn Show continues. 101.1 The Answer. Hey, look, I know health insurance can be confusing, but I know somebody who can help you too. Tammy Chase owns an independent insurance agency in Maumelle, and she actually takes the time to sit down with you in person and explain everything in plain English. And isn't that your favorite kind of English, plain English? I know it is mine. Whether you're under 65 trying to figure out family health, dental, and vision coverage, or nearing Medicare age feeling overwhelmed by choices, Tammy Chase handles it all. She works with multiple insurance companies, so you are not limited to just one option. She finds what works for your situation and budget. She can help you sign up for Medicaid, too. But here's what really sets her apart. Tammy Chase doesn't just sign you up and then bail. No disappearing act. Tammy and her team are there to start to finish. When enrollment periods come up, Tammy Chase helps you review and make changes, even with specialized plans like cancer, heart attack, and stroke coverage. If you're tired of feeling confused about insurance, visit TammyChaseInsurance.com. Trust me, having someone local actually cares makes all the difference in the world. TammyChaseInsurance.com. .1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. I just don't understand why, when Attorney General Tim Griffin says, hey, you got it all wrong about this case with Colonel Conrad Reynolds and his assistant, Dustin Black. Look at the affidavit. Just go ahead. Look at the affidavit. And I look at the affidavit, and it's got both their home addresses and their driver's license listed. I don't get it. What is up here? You know? I, Stephen McClanahan, I'm a special agent with the Arkansas Attorney General's Office / Public Integrity Unit. Is that same Stephen McClanahan that's been with the Little Rock Police Department for over 30 years? Don't get me started. No, don't get me started. I can't. Thank goodness I'm out of time. I'm Doc Washburn. We'll see you at 4:06 Monday, God willing. The great Dave Ellswick is up at 7:06 Monday morning right here.